Well, hello. I'm Dr. Tackett, and we are live at 12:05. And I ain't gonna lie to you. About a week ago at this time, I was stressed out, feeling a little bit sensitive about the idea of going live on Facebook. In fact, about a minute before we went live, I told Gwen, my office manager, I'm about ready to pull the plug on this thing. She said, "Nope, you're going." And I'm glad she did. Nobody likes stress. Stress is just one of those things that gets in the way from us having fun. You know, we're not live. Why does it say it is? Well, I think we are live. I think Gwen screwed that up. It might not be true, but the point being, we have a particular mechanism in us that allows us to survive in the wild. It's called the fight or flight mechanism. Fight or flight is something that we do when we have a danger upon us, like a saber-toothed tiger, right? So back in the day, we had to be able to think quick and move. That's what stress does. It makes us do what we got to do to survive. Now, stress nowadays, actually, believe it or not, has some positive qualities to it. What those positive qualities are is they actually motivate us to make some changes in our life. Stress actually does that. And that stress is something that can really help us grow as individuals. But what is happening when we're stressed? What is happening with the physiology within us? Well, I'll tell you what's happening. First thing that's happening is your heart's going to start racing. And that heart has to go quicker, because if you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger, you need to get blood into your extremities, right? Because you got to either fight or flight. And either way, the muscles in your arms or legs are going to have to be able to function and do what they have to do, and that's what the blood does. And so that heart rate starts increasing. And in order to send the blood to the arms and legs, it's got to take it from someplace. And so where does it take it from? Well, at that point, you don't have any need for digestion, right? So you're not worried about, if you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, eating that cheeseburger, your stomach doesn't need, your GI system doesn't need blood flow. So it takes it from there. And that's why when you get nervous, your stomach feels upset and fluttery. And that's why that happens. But another thing that happens, and this is very critical when it comes to chronic stressors, but what happens is the brain, the control center, we talked about it last time, the brain realizes that it only needs a certain portion at this immediate moment in fight or flight. And what it doesn't need is to think about things and contemplate and reason. And that's the frontal lobe. So it takes blood away from this frontal lobe, that reasoning component in our brain, and it sends it back to the hindbrain, where it's reflex. You don't get out of here and gotta climb that tree, because the last thing you need to do if you have a tiger chasing you is you come to a bypass and you're like, well, I wonder if that's the right way. Maybe I'll go that way. No, you don't do that, because you're lunch if you do that. So it's very interesting, the physiology, but you carry that over into a chronic state of stress, which is what most people are suffering with nowadays. And now all of a sudden you don't function like you're supposed to. Not only is your nervous system in general in this fight or flight mode, you can't really reason and decipher quite as well as you otherwise would, for the very reason I said, that frontal lobe. So stress really complicates our lives in a number of different ways. And that's why I felt like this need to chat about this for a little bit, because the fact is, it still all comes down to perception. How are we perceiving a situation? Because even though that brain is so smart and it's amazing, it's the most amazing thing in the universe, is our brain's capacity, it still can't decipher whether you're worrying about a tiger chasing you, or whether you're worrying about your kids, or whether you're worrying about work, or whether you're worrying about this and worrying about that. And so all that brain knows is it needs to go into the sympathetic mode, which is the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, and it takes away from another component of your nervous system called the parasympathetic, which is the feed and breed. It's how we grow, it's how we regenerate, it's the state that is most successful for us to be in to be healthy, right? And so, what was I saying? I know what I was saying. So it can't decipher. And so our perception is really what it's going by. So our control really is not the outside world, because it's going to be stressful forever. Get used to that. But it's your perception of that stress. You can have two people on the same roller coaster ride in the same chair, and one has got their arms in the air screaming for joy, releasing all these good endorphins and chemicals into their body, and you have the person right next to them, and they are stressed and just fearful, releasing cortisol and all these stress chemicals. But it's their perception. And I realize life is difficult. And there's a lot of legitimate things out there that make you stressful. Whether you're a single parent, that's tough out there. You just have financial worries as well, or all these other things. But you can control that. But it's like you have to practice. It's something that doesn't just happen. We have to get used to it. So what do I do to not be stressed? Because I will tell you, I get stressed, right? And there's a lot of things that everybody is going through. And I think that over time I've built up this ability to sort of not perceive things to the level where it influences me in a negative manner so much. But the initial stressor, well, that affects me. And what do? Well, number one, I let myself be stressed for a short period of time. You know, half a day, something that's stressing me out. But there's a trigger in my brain that says, okay, that's enough. We got this. And so what do? There's a couple of things I do on a daily basis. Number one is music. I get 150 of the best songs in the world on my playlist. If you've ever heard it, you know it's true. And so I'm listening to music in the morning. It gets my day started. It gets my mind in the right place. But if I have a significant stressor, first thing I got to do is breathe. You just stop into your nose, out through your mouth. You're trying to just like get that oxygen going to this part of your brain so you can think more clearly. And that is helpful, believe it or not. Don't minimize these points that I'm going to be telling you. And when I say music, it's because music is something that just helps me get me in the right state of mind. Exercise. Hello. We already talked about movement. It's what you're designed for. Your nervous system is designed for movement. You're going to function better. And when you make sure that nervous system is clear, which is what I do, with the adjustments, you're helping yourself. And that's the biggest part about this, because nobody else can do it for you. And I'm sorry about that. Somebody could help you. Well, they'd be helping you right now in the regards of your perception. And so what else do I do? Oh, if it gets too long, 24 hours, I'm going to talk to somebody about it. And it's usually my wife. And my wife, because you're reasoning and you're perceiving and you're really not able to decipher quite as well. And I'll tell my wife, well, this is what I'm worried about, right? And she'll just look at me and she'll say, honey, no. And what that tells me is you let this run away with it in your head. And so I'm so thankful that I have somebody like her, and I have other people in my life to help see it from the outside in, and it just gives you a wave of relief. So taking care of yourself, exercise, water, all these things. But you have to listen to what you're saying to yourself, because if you're constantly saying negative things to yourself, you are not building up that strength that you need to conquer this world. All right? I know you can. So start listening to what you're saying to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't keep putting negative thoughts into your head. Start hanging out with positive people. Start putting positive thoughts in your head. And you can do this. But stress sucks. Everybody hates it. But I know if you, little by little, over time, start making changes to your lifestyle, change the way you perceive things and think, things will get better. They will always get better. So I'm Dr. Tackett. Might have went a little bit over a few minutes, but we're live at 12:05, and I will see you next week.